definitely you want to keep this business card because it has a ruler on the side, which will be handy in a second. And then lastly is this poly bag. Now, the reason why I want to talk about the poly bag is because the telemeter, we're going to be attaching a string to it. And the string, for me, tends to sometimes get caught up on things. And having it in some kind of case is very helpful. This protective cardboard case is just cardboard, so it's going to wear. It's also going to get wet. So have some kind of case for it. And in the meantime, keep the plastic bag so that you can keep your telemeter in there with the sleeve until you get something else to carry it in with. And that's just a recommendation, not a requirement or anything. So just hang on to that. Lastly here, next we're going to have our book, because winds and telemeters are made in Germany. It's in English and in Deutsch. So you definitely don't want to have that. What we're interested here today is this diagram in the first picture, which talks about how to set up your telemeter. Now, as far as tools go, something that are very handy is a tape measure or ruler or something. If you can get something in mils, that's going to be all the better. It's just much easier to make, put the knots in with precision. And a weight of some kind. I just have another tape measure that you're going to weight the telemeter down on. Okay, then next is you're going to need a tool to help you with tying the knots. Now, the easiest thing and the best thing, I think, is the mechanical pencil. The mechanical pencil just makes it easier for you to tie your knot. I'll show you that in a second. If you don't have a mechanical pencil, let's say you're out in the field or something, I find, and I've done several telemeters with this, is the Swiss Army knife awl. It actually works fairly well. Also, you just have to be careful about the sharp edge here. Another item that I think is very handy to have, either to help with tying the knot with precision, or maybe even to kind of, if you make a mistake, is a safety pin, because then you can kind of pick that knot apart and put it into the right place where you need to. I've done that before. And then lastly is just a marking pen, so that you can mark your distances now, or the length that you need for each one of these dots. Now, you're going to be putting 3 dots in. So your first is at 16.7 centimeters, and then the next is at 25 centimeters, and then 50 centimeters. And so you're going to use these knots essentially to help you with the different distances, determining your different distances. And like I said, I'll go into more detail on that in a future video. If I didn't already talk about it in the range finding video, I'm not 100% sure. You're also going to want to hang on to this little pink string as well, because this little string is going to be used on your telemeter, and that is for other functions, and I'll talk about that later on when we talk about the shadow square. Okay, so your first knot is going to attach the telemeter is going to be to this small hole right here at the bottom. There's a couple of options. I think the best option is to tie a permanent knot here. So I'd go with like something like a 2/2 hitches, and that'll probably be the best, or maybe a bowline. Another option, which I'm going to do here today, is I'm going to do a girth hitch. So I'm just having I took the green string that came with the telemeter, and I tied a girth hitch, or a overhand knot on a bite to it. So I've got a nice little loop. And I know this is going to be very hard to see in this video, so I apologize for that. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my loop, and I'm going to put that through the hole. And now I'm going to put my running end through that loop that I had tied. if I can get it open. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is there's two reasons. One is the string, as I said before, does sometimes get caught up on gear and things like that. And sometimes it's nice just to be able to take it out, take it off. And once this is tied on, it's going to be tied on there. It's going to be hard to remove without cutting it. So, yeah, so basically it gives me an option to be able to take this off. There are other functions that you can use with the car without the string. However, it is absolutely essential for most functions. And so you definitely want to have the string on there. So when you don't have it permanently tied on, you can risk or carry it with you rather. You risk losing it, and then you can always makeshift something out in the field. That's not the string that's important. It's the length of the string. But then it becomes harder because you have to put the knots in and then you have to measure it and so on and so forth. So, yeah, so the reason why I did this is because I like to have a nice small piece of string when I'm doing my map work. I can mark gradation, or I can mark distances on the string, so I could judge the scale and range of where I'm walking. I can run kind of the string across a trail because it's to get more accurate estimation of distance. And there's other functions obviously for string as well. So that just kind of gives me some more options, more available. But like I said, you don't want to lose your string. Okay, so when it comes down to time to put your knots in, what I would recommend is just taking your tape measure and measuring it out. Put that down on a table, and you're going to measure out. And I'm going to take a weight of some kind, and I'm going to put that weight on top of the telemeter. That just helps kind of keep it stable. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark off my string. Now, if you don't have a tape measure, with mils or whatever, you can take a piece of paper or a cardboard or a table or whatever, put that down, and use your card, again, that has mils and standard, and mark that off on the table, and then mark those distances off on the table. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. And use that, use that essentially as your ruler. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark each one of the spots that I need to put a knot in with my marker. So I've already put my knots in just to kind of speed up the video. I did try filming it, but with this GoPro, it was really hard to see what I was doing. It was real finicky. So I went ahead and just put the knots in, but I'll show the whole process just so you can kind of get it. So I've marked I'll just mark my knots. The first knot here is the key. This is the main knot, really. Most used knot at the very end. Now you can choose one of two things. You can do as the instruction says, to put that knot and then leave some space and put your disc. This is kind of works as a plumb bob, as a weight, and other things. You can put that at the very end, or the other option is to tie the knot so that it's right on the disc. So when you're range finding, you can just put this disc, hold it in your teeth or in your lips to get your distance. And to me, that was just much easier. But for this particular video, we're going to go ahead and do it as it's described in the instructions. Now, keep in mind that distance is really important. So you want to make sure that your knots are precise. So measure twice, tie once, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do an overhand loop, and it's probably easier to see on the pen. So I'll do an overhand loop. and stick my pencil right through that overhand loop, and then just take that running end and run it through the overhand, so I have an overhand knot. Okay. Oops. It's hard to do with one. I have no coordination. Just do your overhand knot however you want to do it. That's what I say. Wow. I'm really having a hard time. Okay, so take your make an overhand loop, take the running end and pull it through that loop. Okay, now we have essentially our overhand knot, but it's not tied. It's not tightened yet. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my mechanical pencil and I'm going to put that around there. So, and I'm going to pull tight and bring it right to the end here, pull tight. And I'm not going to do that because I already have my knots in. And then what you can do is, because the knots are so small, is you just do a consecutive overhand knots on top of each other, one on top of each other. I find that to get the first knot done, use the mechanical pencil, and then when I get into doing consecutive overhand knots to make that knot larger, for me the safety pin works a little bit better. You could see what works best for you, but that works well for me. Okay, so the other thing here then, the only other thing we need to do is put in our the plumb bob, or what I'm calling disc. And like I said, you can put it anywhere you want. Really, I'm just going to go ahead and put it right towards the end, but long enough or distance enough that I can still put the knot in my teeth, but the plumb bob can kind of hang there and not be in the way. There, and there you have it. All right, so now we are ready to go. The only last thing here is to put in our little string, and just with a couple overhand knots is fine. And then you can trim all the excess off, and you can get back to doing what you need to do with your telemeter. There we are. So we got our string in place, our marker string, we've got our plumb bob on, we got our knots in place. We are ready to use our WNDSN telemeter. So hopefully this was a helpful video. Yeah, if you got any questions, shoot them over to me. Online is a fantastic tutorials. You can check them out to get most of the major functions are in the little booklet, but keep in mind you can do a lot more with the telemeter, and a lot of that stuff is online. And there's also many blogs out there with people doing different things with them as well. So definitely do a little research and check things out on the web. It's handy. So hopefully you like this video, like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.